Well, good evening. I'm so glad you could join me again. Tonight, we're going to be reading chapter 10, Samuel Adams, and he's nicknamed the Angry Letter Writer. He was born September 27th of 1722 and died October 2nd of 1803. Samuel Adams. John Adams claimed that his cousin Samuel was misunderstood and would always be so. Perhaps he was right. The Sam Adams most people know is just a myth. In the myth, Sam Adams was this fiery patriot, a rabble rouser who could control angry mobs with a wink and a nod. It sounds like Robin Hood. He planned the Boston Tea Party, set it in motion with a code phrase at the town hall meeting he was leading, and planned the entire American Revolution. This myth got started by the British, who had decided old Sam was public enemy number one. The true story is more complicated. The real Adams was a first-rate, angry letter writer and essayist. He was angry about colonists, colonists, yes, not getting treated as fairly as British citizens and getting taxed without their say-so. Under pen names, he wrote angry letters in response to his own essays. That sounds fun. He talks to himself in angry letter form. Adams also held many political offices and did many important things. He was the one who, in 1774, proposed that the colonies hold a Continental Congress to figure out how to deal with Britain. What he wanted were peaceful protests. He wasn't in favor of the revolution until it was already happening in late 1775, and there is no proof that he masterminded the Boston Tea Party. He didn't need to fire up the Bostonians. They were already fired up. What he did do was to organize his fellow colonists to stand up for their rights peacefully with great American tradition. There you go. The truth about old Sammy. He wasn't a swashbuckling buccaneer, or maybe one of the musketeers. He wasn't the myth that we thought, the God we thought. The truth is stranger than fiction. Famous quotes: I am no friend to riots, tumults, and unlawful assemblies. When we are universally ignorant and debauched in their manners, they will sink under their own weight without the aid of foreign invaders. In monarchy of crime and treason may admit of being pardoned or lately punished, but the man who dares rebel against the laws of the republic ought to suffer death. Oh, that's a good one. Mankind is governed more by their feelings than by reason. Go, Sam. He writes, his height is 5 feet 6 inches. He has a solid weight. His political leaning, he's cautious. He's radical. He's moderate. He's civil disobedient. He's a patriot. He's an activist propagandist. Again, another con man. Those are all the qualifications of a con man. Jobs held. Well, he was a failed maltster. That's a producer of malt. He was a failed tax collector. He was an essay writer. He was the clerk for the Massachusetts House of Representatives. He was a delegate to the Continental Congress. He was president of the Massachusetts Senate. He was governor of Massachusetts. Wow, these people are just nuts. You just read it, you're like, God Dang it, there's another one. All right. Years served in the military. That's a goose egg. Education, Harvard College, my darling, of course. Go all. That's my alma mater. Languages mastered Latin, Greek, and Hebrew. Wealth, born wealthy, became poor, but died middle class due to an inheritance. That's the Gen X. That's the archetype. And that would have been a nomadic generation that played out back in 1777 as well. So the archetype that is Gen X in generational sciences is this archetype, these characters here. So just look around with your friends and imagine them. Everything we have now happening then. Same. That's predictable. That's predictable science studies. That's prophecy. No, that's generational studies, business science. I got my degree. I took a class in it at Harvard. Well, I went to Yale, so okay. He had his nickname of Father of the American Revolution. His political party, Democratic Republican Party. His main residence, Boston, Massachusetts. Land and property owned, one medium-sized house. He owned one dog, a Newfoundland. Human slaves owned one. The slave, named Surrey, was a gift to his wife, and though Adams supposedly offered to free her, she remained a slave. Well, they paid her, and she said, I want to stay here. And they said, okay, and like adopted her as part of the family. She stays, but she could go if she wanted to. But I'm sure he said it. I freed a slave, but my slave loved me so much. She didn't want to leave. See how great I am? Oh, man. That sounds like a fairy tale, too, doesn't it? I think they have a name for that. Isn't that? What is that? Like you Stockholm syndrome. Okay, I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just asking questions. Don't get it all crooked. So what his position on slavery? Absolutely against it. Religious faiths, devout Puritan and totally anti-Catholic. Fuck them Catholics. Achievements, he coined the phrase a Boston Massacre. He wrote The Rights of the Colonists, one model for Declaration of Independence. He initiated the Boston Committee of Correspondence. He initiated the First Continental Congress. He initiated the colonists' boycott of British goods. His opinion on the Boston Tea Party? Its biggest fan, but this was never proven, but he was never proven to be the planner. Right? They can't quite pin it on him. You know, he was very active. Maybe he was an infiltrator. I don't know. Maybe he was playing both sides because it seems like he's a bit wishy-washy. Didn't one of them even say they were wishy? All of them are wishy-washy. They can't pick a side. Sounds very much like politicians today. Get a jab. Don't get a jab. I want to go down in history as the president that told you to stop getting jabs and saved everyone's lives. Worship me now. You're the greatest president ever. Okay. So the next one, tomorrow night, we're going to be reading about John Hancock and his contributions to our independence. So come back, my imaginary friends.